2014, a group of researchers from the universities of Virginia and Harvard led the famous boredom shock experiment. Here, people were placed in a room where they were asked to sit alone with their thoughts for about 15 minutes. No phone, no music, and worst of all, no Minecraft. Whew, truly a modern day tragedy. There was nothing else in the room that would keep them occupied, except for a small button, which, if pressed, would give them a painful electric shock. You'd think the choice is pretty simple: sit in silence or get electrocuted. Apparently not. The researchers found that nearly half of the participants pressed it, and one person did so over 190 times? We've all gotten so used to this cycle of being stimulated that even a small moment of silence can feel unbearable, awkward, and almost wrong. So much so that we're willing to make ourselves feel physical pain just to avoid it. Which is crazy, given the fact that I usually complain about my headphones breaking every few weeks. And yet, here, people are voluntarily electrocuting themselves just to feel busy. Maybe the issue we have with boredom is that it's seen as a warning, a sign that something in our character might need to change. And that idea may be what has damaged boredom's entire reputation, making it seem like an emotion that exposes flaws, rather than a potential tool for self-development. But boredom isn't an issue. It never was. The real problem has always been our fear of it. And in a world that never stops stimulating, the real question isn't how to erase these distractions. It's how we can protect our well-being and our sense of inner peace amidst the chaos. And surprisingly, I found that one of the best ways to find this peace is to be bored and to be alone. I know it sounds weird at first. I mean, who actually wants to sit in a room and do absolutely nothing? Not me, I'll tell you that. But here's the thing. When we're completely alone with ourselves, we're unconsciously diving into some of the most introspective questions about our well-being. Arthur C. Brooks, a well-respected professor and esteemed author at Harvard Business School, explained this idea perfectly. He said that when we're alone, our brains shift into a state of mind called the default mode network. Here, our brains basically operate on autopilot, and our minds tend to drift off into usually uncomfortable and sensitive ideas about our lives. Questions that we'd rarely find the time to engage in. This process acts as a blueprint for creativity and mental improvement, building our identity through simple questions. These can range from existential questions like, what's my purpose in life? To random ones like, could I plug a fork into my charging socket? As it turns out, it wasn't one of my best ideas. But that state of mind helps us recognize what's wrong, and sometimes how to fix it. This isn't just my opinion either. Neil Gaiman, an inspirational English writer, once said that the best way to come up with new ideas is to get really bored. And Steve Maraboli, an influential American author, once stated that the most powerful relationship you'll ever have is the relationship with yourself. And this relationship with ourselves has become vital given the crisis of well-being we face today. The United Nations has estimated that ever since 2020, over 1 billion people have been suffering from mental health conditions such as depression and anxiety. This has led to a large increase in reliance on mental health services, costing the global economy an estimated 1 trillion US dollars each year. Now that's okay. We need to be able to provide help to those who need it. But I also believe that one of the best therapists you'll ever have is yourself. Just think about it. We spend every moment of our days with ourselves. But how often do we actually stop and listen? Of course, there's nothing wrong with asking for advice. But sometimes simply sitting down and having a quiet conversation with your thoughts can build your strength, your awareness, and your confidence in who you are. Because the truth is, a lot of people in our generation lack a clear sense of purpose or meaning in their lives. Seriously? Well, at least it's true. In fact, fewer than 3 out of every 10 teenagers know what career they want to pursue. And that's worrying. Because if we never understand what drives us, how will we ever feel fulfilled in our lives? Let's face it, we don't like boredom, especially the questions it leads us to. But we have to understand if we don't tackle these ideas and meanings now, when our minds are completely free of work and stimulation, then when will we tackle them? Look, I'm no philosopher, but really, what's stopping us? Maybe a lot of us just need one moment to realize the true importance of boredom in our lives. I remember a moment like this back in 10th grade. It was at a mall with my friends. It was nothing special, to be honest, just a typical teenage get-together with questionable karaoke and way too much laughter. After we said our farewells, I sat at the bus station waiting under the blazing Arabian heat. My phone buzzed from my pocket, and my brain screamed at me to check it. Now, be honest, what would you have done here? The answer for any 14-year-old would have been a direct dive into doom scroll land. But as I boarded the bus, I decided I wouldn't. Why? I'm not that sure. But as I fought that urge, something shifted. I felt bored, yes, but I also felt incredibly calm. The trees looked greener, the sunlight felt richer, and it was like finding color in a world of black and white distractions. I went home that day feeling just a little bit better. Not just from the amazing hangout, but from the reassurance that I am in control of my life. And that was powerful. Because we need to stop clicking through the tabs and start seeing the world for what it is. Boring. In fact, many key principles like consistency or discipline are a total snooze fest. But maybe that boredom is exactly what makes the achievements so rewarding. Boredom isn't an obstacle. It's a space. It's going to be there your whole life. You might as well learn how to use it. So the next time you're stuck in line at a supermarket, staring out a bus window, or being home alone with nothing planned, don't try to fight your boredom. Instead, embrace it. Because in that silence, you might just find the answers you've been searching for. So be bored. In fact, be bored more. And we'll see how our lives change. Thank you.